तया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to our daily morning reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you all for joining and please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. First of all, I seek blessings and permission from Srila Prabhupada, entire Guru Parampara, and my Guru Maharaj, so that they bless me to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. And I also offer my respects to all the Vaishnavas present. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. We are all so fortunate that we get the association of Srimad Bhagavatam every morning, and every morning we turn up for our class, as if we are all addicted to Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like Lord Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yad Gatva na nivartante tad dhamam paramam mama. Once you come to my abode, then you don't have to go anywhere else. So similarly, Bhagavatam also declares that once you taste the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, then you can never be attracted to any other literature. Srimad Bhagavatam, last canto, last chapter, verse 15. So Srimad Bhagavatam 12, 13, 15. It says that Srimad Bhagavatam is Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi Srimad Bhagavatam Ishyate Tad Samritam Truptasya Nanyatra Syadrati Kvachit. That the one who drinks the Amrita of Srimad Bhagavatam, he becomes so trupta, so satisfied that na anyatra, nowhere else they find rasa, because Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedanta philosophy. And even once we even taste a drop of this ocean of nectar, Srimad Bhagavatam, then our hearts become so satisfied with Krishna Katha that no other subject matter in this world can truly attract us. We'll continue our reading today. We are reading from Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation, and the chapter 2 titled The Lord in the Heart. So we'll just quickly summarize what we have seen in this chapter so far. In the beginning of this chapter, Shukdev Goswami has rejected the Karmakand path. He made it very clear that who would be choosing Karmakand? Only a materialist will reject bhakti and choose Karmakand. And then he continued his Virat Rup theme that's been going on since previous chapter as well. So he continued that Virat Rup theme. He described the Dharanashray, the shelter for meditation, for two kinds of yogis. For unattached yogis, it is Paramatma meditation, and for attached yogi, it is Virat Rup meditation. And then came a section where he described the process of living for an advanced yogi. So in one of the verses, there was a word, labdhopashanti. That is a stage, labdhopashanti stage, which is nothing but the Brahman realization. And then in verses 19 to 21 that we have been reading throughout this week, Shukdev Goswami describes Shat Chakra Yoga, the 6 circles of the movement of the air within the body, and the liberation of such yogi who meditates in this way, and how he should live body. So like this, from verses 15 to 21 in this chapter, Shukdev Goswami describes the path of the Paramatma meditator, which gives direct liberation. And then from verse 22, he will describe the path of Virat Rup meditator, which gives gradual liberation, Krama Mukti. So let's go to verse 22. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktirabhavati naishtiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:22. Yadi prayasyan nrupaparameshthyam vaihayasana mutayad viharam अष्टाधिपत्यं गुणसन्निवाये सहैव गच्छेन्मनसेन्द्रियैश्च. Word to word. Yadi, however. Prayasyan, maintaining a desire. Nrupa, O king. Parameshthyam, the governing planet of the material world. Vaihayasanam, of the beings known as the Vaihayasas. Uta, it is said. Yata, what is. Viharam, place of enjoyment. Ashta Adhipatyam, lording it over with 8-fold achievements. Guna Sannivaye, in the world of 3 modes of nature. Saha, along with. Eva, certainly. Gacheta, should go. Manasa, accompanied by mind. Indriyai, and the senses. Cha, also. Translation by Krishna Kripamurti, His Loving Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments, like transference to the topmost planet Brahmaloka, or the achievement of the 8-fold perfections, travel in outer space with the Vaihayasas, or a situation in one of the millions of planets, then he has to take away with him the materially molded mind and senses. Would anyone like to read the purport, please?
Mataji, I'll read.
Okay, yes, please, Mataji.
In the upper status of the planetary systems, there are facilities thousands and thousands of times greater for material enjoyments than in the lower planetary systems. The topmost planetary system consists of planets like Brahmaloka and Dhruvaloka, the pole star, and all of them are situated beyond Maharloka. The inhabitants of those planets are empowered with 8-fold achievements of mystic perfection. They do not have to learn and practice the mystic power processes of yoga perfection and achieve the power of becoming small like a particle, anima siddhi, or lighter than a soft feather, laghima siddhi. They do not have to get anything and everything from anywhere and everywhere, prapti siddhi, to become heavier than the heaviest, mahima siddhi, to act freely even to create something wonderful or to annihilate anything at will, ishtva siddhi, to control all material elements, vashitva siddhi, to possess such power as will never be frustrated in any desire, prakamya siddhi, or to assume any shape or form. One may even whimsically desire kama vasaita siddhi. All these expediencies are as common as natural gifts for the inhabitants of those higher planets. They do not require any mechanical help to travel in outer space, and they can move and travel at will from one planet to any other planet within no time. The inhabitants of the Earth cannot move even to the nearest planet except by mechanical vehicles like spacecraft, but the highly talented inhabitants of such higher planets can do everything very easily. Since a materialist is generally inquisitive to experience what is actually in such planetary systems, he wants to see everything personally. As inquisitive persons tour all over the world to gain direct local experience, the less intelligent transcendentalists similarly desire to have some experience of those planets about which he has heard so many wonderful things. The yogi can, however, easily fulfill his desire by going there with the present materialistic mind and senses. The prime inclination of the materialistic mind is to lord it over the material world, and all the siddhis mentioned above are features of domination over the world. The devotees of the Lord are not ambitious to dominate a false and temporary phenomenon. On the contrary, a devotee wants to be dominated by the supreme predominator, the Lord. A desire to serve the Lord, the supreme predominator, is spiritual and transcendental, and one has to attain this purification of the mind and the senses to get admission into the spiritual kingdom. With the materialistic mind, one can reach the best planet in the universe, but no one can enter the kingdom of God. Senses are called spiritually purified when they do not involve in when they are not involved in sense gratification. Senses require engagements, and when the senses are engaged totally in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they have no chance to become contaminated by material infections. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So, we are talking about a yogi. What does a yogi do? He spits at the bhogi, the one who is busy enjoying in this material world. Yogi will say that, oh, look at you all, trying to enjoy here. I renounce everything. I will go to jungle and I will meditate. For what? I will achieve yogic siddhis. I'm better than you lot. I will go to higher planets. And then do what? I will enjoy there. So I'm a renunciant. I reject the women here. But I will enjoy with the women in heavenly planets after I die. So he rejects the women on the earth, but he doesn't reject the sense enjoyment. So the main point of today's verse, the main word is yadi, yadi prayasyan. If a yogi is still desiring for material enjoyment, for example, higher planets or mystic powers or space travel, going to other, being able to go to other planets. If he still desires for them, if he's still endeavoring from them, yadi prayasyan, then he carries his material mind and material senses with him. So, Shukdev Goswami is explaining to Maharaj Parikshit that even the yogis who are on the path of self-realization, even they can sometimes be distracted by desires for material enjoyment. For them, Material enjoyment does not only mean accumulating wealth or possessions only on this earthly planet. They think that they are more intelligent than a gross materialist. But maybe they are, but they are not the most intelligent. Real intelligent person is Bhakti Yogi. In Thursday, Viraj Krishna Prabhu's class, I heard a very unforgettable line. Real Buddhi Yogi in one of the purports in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes that real Buddhi Yoga is Bhakti Yoga. So for a yogi, it is because of his less intelligence that they may aspire for higher material pleasures like residence in the upper planetary systems like Swargaloka or Maharloka or Brahmaloka, where life is very long. There is somras, there is, heavenly nectar to drink, and there are beautiful apsaras for sense enjoyment. So hearing such facilities from Shastra, they may think that this material world is not all in all, and they may meditate on these higher destinations, hoping to personally experience them. In one of the uh, sentence here in Prabhupada, in the purport, Prabhupada says, out of curiosity. But Shukdev Goswami wants in this shloka that this kind of desire, this is also for sense enjoyment. It is only on a more subtle and elevated level, but it is still a material desire. So if a yogi cultivates such desires, then he must travel there with his, as Prabhupada writes, materially molded mind and senses. So that means that he still remains bound within the subtle body. A subtle body is made up of MBA, Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So he still remains bound within the subtle body, and that's why he cannot accept, he cannot escape the material bondage. So Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport that in higher planets also, the residents, they automatically have the Ashtasiddhis, the eight mystic perfections, as Prabhupada has described, Anima, Laghima, Vashitva, Ishitva. So the residents of higher planetary systems, they already automatically have these Ashtasiddhis, and for them, these kind of powers are natural. But on Earth planet, the yogis, the mystics, they have to spend decades trying to achieve these kind of siddhis. They think that these are great achievements. That's why they prayasan, they endeavor for them. So Prabhupada, in one place, Prabhupada in a class, he gave an example of a mystic yogi who had spent decades of his life practicing to walk across the Ganga by Laghima Siddhi. So I remember in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentions that once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, he was walking on the bank of river Ganga, and then he came across this yogi who was showing off his siddhi of being able to walk on water. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj asked him, how long tapasya did he do to achieve this siddhi, then he said 35 years. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj then asked his disciples, how much does it cost to cross, how much does the boatman charge to cross the river Ganga in the boat? And they said 10 paisa, 10 paisa. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj tells this yogi that your siddhi is not worth more than 10 paisa. You wasted 35 years of your life for something that costs 10 paisa. So, one can simply pay 10 paisa to the boatman and cross the river. And why does one need to walk on water? So what is the real value of this kind of yoga practice? At best, it is like a show. It's like a showpiece, a kind of circus. It's for boosting the ego that, see, I'm better than all others who can't walk on water. But they say they cannot um, liberate one from birth and death. That's why Shukdev Goswami makes it very clear in our purport, that these desires, Prabhupada unfolds for us that these desires are because of, firstly, curiosity. And then in the second paragraph, he describes that they are because of tendency to lord it over material energy. Even without realizing that they are doing it. On one hand, they are condemning others, the bhogis, who are karmis, who are lording it over material energy. So they choose the path of yoga. But in doing that, they are desiring the same material enjoyment, but in a higher planetary system. So a yogi may reach even the highest material planet, Brahmaloka. But with the material mind and the subtle body, he cannot enter the spiritual kingdom. And in contrast, a devotee of the Lord, he never cares for any siddhis or heavenly pleasures. His only aspiration is to remain a humble servant of Krishna, life after life, birth after birth. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has set the bar very high for all of us. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamai mama janmani janmani. So life after life, he say that I do not desire dhanam, wealth. I do not desire janam. I do not desire high birth. The sundarim, I do not desire beautiful women. Kavitam, I do not desire to be glorified by beautiful poetry. But life after life, I just desire to serve you. So this is the mood of a pure devotee, whether they are in heaven or they are in hell, in this world or the next world, in this body or the next body. The only real treasure for a devotee is loving devotional service to Krishna. So by developing this higher taste, devotees are always protected from being allured by the endless sense enjoyments that this material world has to offer. So the essence of today's shloka, if you want to say in one line, that would be Yadi Prayasyan, if one endeavors for mystic siddhis and heavenly pleasures in this life, then at the end of this life, yes, he will get to leave this material body, the gross body. But those desires for siddhis or heavenly pleasures, they will keep him bound to the subtle body. Why? Because, if we try to understand with Bhagavad Gita, every conditioned soul has two coverings, two bodies. So one is gross body, sthul sharir, which is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether, bhumira, punalo, vayu, come. And the other covering is subtle body, sukshma sharir, which is made of MBA, Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, mind, intelligence, and false ego. So the soul, the soul that is in the center, the soul, Atma, itself is Sat Chit Anand, pure, spiritual, and eternal. But because of desire for material enjoyment, it has to accept these coverings, subtle and gross. So he has to accept these coverings to fulfill those desires. So the binding force here is two things, the desire, our kama, and our ahankar, our false ego. In Bhagavad Gita 3.37, Krishna says, Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyayena meha vairinam. They are vairi, they are your enemies. Krishna says it is kama esha, it is lust only. which is born out of contact with Rajoguna Samudbhava, which is born out of contact with mode of passion. And Krodha Esha, later the calm only, lust only gets transformed into anger, and that is what is the all-devouring, very sinful enemy of this world. And in the next verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives a perfect analogy. He says that just like fire is covered with smoke, and mirror is covered by dust, or embryo is covered by the womb. Similarly, the living entity is also covered by different degrees of this lust. And in Bhagavad Gita 15.8 also, he gives a similar analogy that just like the air carries the aromas, similarly, the living entity in the material world carries the different conceptions of life to fulfill the desires they have. From one body to another body, they carry these conceptions, these desires. So, he takes one kind of body, fulfills the previous desires. While doing so, develops some other desires, then quits the current body, and then takes up another body to fulfill the new desires. And the cycle goes on. So imagine a person who walks into a kitchen wearing a very freshly washed, clean shirt. So if he, spends some time in the kitchen, in cooking, especially, in an Indian kitchen, then he puts, cinnamon and star anise and, all kinds of spices. He puts everything in the oil. The room becomes so aromatic. But when he leaves the kitchen, his shirt, his clothes will smell of the spices. Maybe he will wear an apron and his shirt will be saved from the stains, the physical evidence that he has been cooking. But the smell is subtle. He cannot stop that. So, and also, sometimes when we go, when we do bonfire, and when we go home, and we smell our clothes, the smell of smoke is there. So just like that, covering for our body, the shirt, just like the shirt carries all these various fragrances, even after we leave the place. In the same way, these the soul and the primary covering of the soul, subtle body. Similarly, subtle body carries all the fragrances of our desires, our impressions, our attachments. And when the secondary covering of the soul, the gross body, when the outer layer covering, when that dies, still the soul cannot get free because the soul is still wrapped into this primary covering, subtle body, and that is what will carry the soul to the next birth. And how does this work? How does the subtle body grip the soul? So let's try to understand, what is subtle body made of? Man, Buddhi, Ahankar, MBA. Mind. So man means mind. So mind stores the desires. I want this, I want that, I saw this, I like this, I would like to have that. And then buddhi, intelligence. So buddhi plans, how can I fulfill these desires, where I can fulfill these desires. And then there is false ego, ahankar. So ahankar identifies with the body that I am this body, I am the enjoyer, I am the one who gets to enjoy the fulfillment of all my desires. So because of these three, the soul forgets the real purpose. The soul forgets Krishna and identifies with this body, the temporary matter. So as long as these subtle impressions, our vasanas, our samskaras, as long as they remain, the soul cannot be liberated. So, if we come back to today's verse, siddhis and heavenly enjoyments, they they are still within the modes of nature, because they are still material, heavenly planets are still material planets. So they are still within the modes of material nature. Even if a yogi goes to Brahma Loka, he takes with him his subtle body, and that is why he cannot enter the spiritual world. To go to Krishna, you will have to be anya bhilashita shunyam. You will have to have no anya abhilasha, have no other desire. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, verse 1:11. It says, Anya bhilashita shunyam janma gnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. So, anya abhilasha, uh, any other desire, anything other than Krishna, is the barrier between you and Krishna. It stands between you two, you and Krishna. And Krishna's mechanism is so foolproof. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, he describes Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyajantante Kalevaram Tam Tam Evaiti Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavita. So, whatever one remembers at the time of living body, Tyajantante Kalevaram, that is what one will attain. And what will one remember at the last moment? Whole life he has meditated on siddhis. Then he will remember siddhis. So one's thoughts during the course of life, they accumulate in the mind, and they influence one's thoughts at the moment of death also. So this life creates our next life. So, we will be forced to give up the gross body at death. But to go to Krishna, even the subtle body needs to be dissolved. And how can that happen? That can only happen through bhakti. Only with bhakti, our mind, our intelligence, our ahankar, our false ego, when we surrender all of them to Krishna, it automatically happens when we take shelter of Krishna. Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam mama aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. He says, do not fear. I will liberate you from all your sins, all your desires. So, how does taking shelter of Krishna, how does he help us give up our subtle body also? Because through bhakti, by purifying the mind and the senses in Krishna's service, that is how our soul can be free. So if in one's present life, one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, then only it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of life. And it is Krishna's promise that Mam upetyetu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate, Bhagavad Gita 8:16. It is Krishna's promise that once you come back to me, there is no rebirth. Otherwise, a Brahma Bhuvanaloka Punaravartino Jana. From this material planet, from this earth to the highest planet in this material world, Brahma Loka, from there to the lowest planet, they are all places of misery where repeated birth and death takes place. There is punaravartan, repetition of birth and death. But tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine punye martalokam vishanti. When punya gets exhausted, then martyaloke vishanti. Then we have to come to this earthly planet. By doing all sorts of dhyana, meditation, the yogi can be promoted to the higher planetary systems and enjoy a longer duration of life or better facilities for sense enjoyment. But he is not allowed to stay there forever. Punaravarti nojana. Kshane punye marte loke vishanti. When the credits from pious activities are exhausted, then he will again be sent back to the earth. So our learning from today's verse is that material desires keep us in the material world, and only spiritual desires will take us to spiritual world. It is said that for a soul, a soul without desire is not possible. It is unthinkable. Just like sun without the sunshine, sweet without the sweetness, fire without the heat is unimaginable. Similarly, a soul, as a soul, we are always pleasure seekers, anandamayo bhashyat. We can never ever be desireless. We will, we were as we hear in the classes again and again, we were originally the residents of spiritual world. But when we developed the yearning to enjoy like Krishna, enjoy separately from Krishna, then we were sent in this material world to satisfy our non-spiritual desires. So, and in here, in this world, we passionately search for various ways to satisfy our countless cravings, our desires. And we hopelessly hope that once all our desires, once they all get fulfilled, then we will feel peace, then we will feel satisfaction. But unfortunately, it never happens. Our desires are endless. And the moment one desire gets fulfilled, then immediately another one pops up. And many a times our desires, they are not our basic needs, but it's just because of maybe social pleasure or a hunger to prove that we are better than others, or prove our worth to others, to get some appreciation, acceptance. No? A lot of times our desires reflect these things. In 80s in India, there used to be an ad for a TV brand named Onida. And the tagline for that brand was neighbor's envy and owner's pride. That you own this TV and then you make your neighbors envious of you, and you take pride in that you are making others envious of you. Um, I studied in a school with majority of Marwadi Jain girls, and I heard this sentence repeatedly. In Gujarati, they say, "Bevu karine ghee piyo." And later I realized when where this comes from, when I read that there was some atheist philosopher named Charvak who said that ऋणं कृत्वा घृतं पिबेत यावत् जीवेत् सुखं जीवेत भस्मीभूतस्य देहस्य कुतः पुनरागमनो भवेत. That ऋणं कृत्वा घृतं पिबेत, घृतं ghee, and drink ghee. Rinam Kritva, take loan from somewhere, but drink ghee. In India, it was a sign of prosperity if one can eat all their food, even their puris and jalebis and everything that is fried and cooked in ghee. So Charvak says that yavat jivet sukham jiveta. As long as you live in enjoyment only. So beg, borrow, or steal, but enjoy all the pleasures of this world until your heart gets content. Because once you die, then kutaha punar agmano bhaveta. Once you die, then you cannot come back here and enjoy, right? So Charvak says that that kind of thinking that zindagi na milegi dobara, you only lives once. But when we read scriptures, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, the scriptures explain, they clearly explain that no, as souls, we are eternal. So we have to be always very cautious, extra cautious whenever we desire. We need to be vigilant what kind of desires we are having. So we need to be cautious when we pursue those desires, because desires, they can never be fulfilled. In Bhagavad Gita 2.70, it gives a very beautiful analogy for desires. Krishna says, Samudra mapaha pravishanti yadvat. That just like Samudra, just like all the rivers, they enter into the ocean. Like that, the flow of desires is never ending. Constantly, the rivers are emptying their waters into the ocean. Uh, and sorry, when it rains, ocean is ready to accept more water, but the ocean remains the same. Ocean remains the steady. Ocean is never agitated. So similarly, Krishna says same goes for a person who is fixed in Krishna consciousness, and never agitated by desires. Dhruv Maharaj, when he was humiliated by his stepmother Suruchi, and he was neglected by his father Uttanapad, he didn't come to defend him. So, then he was devastated. And then he was furious, and out of anger, a desire took birth. I want a kingdom greater than that of my father, my grandfather, Lord Brahma, and even my great grandfathers. So, in other words, he wanted a position superior to Brahmalok, the highest planet in the material universe. So, this desire drove him to perform the famous, the austerities that he performed at young age, that were guided by Narad Muni. So he did all these austerities with that desire that I want to have the kingdom greater than my great grandfather. But the beauty is, when he finally saw Lord Vishnu, all his material desires vanished, and he in his prayers, when he offers to Lord Vishnu, he says that, I was searching for the broken pieces of glass, my Lord, but now I have found the most precious jewel. Now I don't want anything else. So Dhruv Maharaj's desire, he had a desire. It was a material desire, but it was purified by the Lord. So as long as one has material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. But that 5-year-old Dhruva, he said what an 80-year-old yogi may not have ever realized. He said that those people who desire sense gratification for this bag of skin, they are no doubt, they are influenced by, he says to the Lord that they are influenced by your illusory energy, Maya. And those people are foolish who want from you anything other than you. So the devotees, desires may come to him just like waters of the rivers, they that flow into the ocean, and ocean is not disturbed by such desires. Similarly, a devotee, because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, so similarly, just like the ocean, he can also remain steady, and he enjoys the full peace, lasting peace, the real peace. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bhakti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakaliya Shanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19:149. So, Bhukti Kami, the karmi who desires to enjoy the fruits of his actions, the fruitive worker. Mukti Kami, the gnani who desires liberation. And Siddhi Kami, the yogi who desires mystic powers. Bhakti Mukti Siddhi Kami, Sakaliya Shanta. They are all unhappy because the desires are unfulfilled. But Krishna Bhakta Nishkama, a devotee is nishkama. He considered nishkama, no desires. He is considered to have no desires because he has no other desire other than pleasing Krishna. And that is why Ata eva Shanta, that is why he is in perfect peace. Because Krishna has personally taken charge of his everything, including his desires. And it is Krishna who purifies our desires also. So I think we will pause here. Let's pray that we always surround ourselves with desires for more and more service, more and more loving devotional service to Krishna, so that we may get protection from our own desires. So with that, we'll pause here. If anyone has any questions or corrections or additions or subtractions or chastisements, please unmute and share.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the beautiful class. And I was thinking, this reminds me of the quote, power is to destroy, for everything else, love is enough. So just thought of sharing that.
Yes, thank you so much, Radha.
Thank you.
That's so beautiful and so true. All right. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a blissful Krishna conscious day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.